My name is Dave Kranich, Operations Field Sales Engineer for Sage X3. Today I'm going to take you through an overview of X3 we affectionately call Look Feel Navigation. And in addition, we will also review several of the key common data tables, specifically customers, suppliers, products, and product sites. Before we get started, there's a couple things that a couple seeds I want to plant. And then we'll move into the software. First, Sage X3 is a powerful and modern ERP system that focuses heavily on flexibility, speed, ease of use and speed, and it has an intuitive, user-friendly user interface. I also want to point out that it's capable of being deployed both in the cloud or on-prem. And generally speaking, our X3 partners work closely with each of their prospective customers to determine the best deployment option for each circumstance. I'm not going to get into the many different options around that, but just know that it's typically a customer by customer choice as to which way it's deployed. Sage X3 comes as a pre-configured solution, which is an important thing to understand. Today we're going to look at business intelligence, KPIs and dashboards. We're going to look at visual process maps. We're going to talk about roles and permissions, and we're going to talk about inquiries, and all that stuff is already built into the system. It's pre-configured, and that comes out of the box. But the key thing about this is that the flexibility of X3 allows customers to adjust, configure, and enhance the system to meet their specific business requirements. And then, of course, getting into the software, X3 is 100% browser-based. So that means that it's both platform and browser independent. It was written in HTML5 with responsive design as a key focus, and can easily be deployed on anything from a Mac to a PC, to a Google Chromebook, to a Samsung Galaxy tablet, to an Android or iOS phone. And as you move from device to device, from big to small, medium to large, etc., the system is going to adjust to that based on responsive design. A couple other things as we log in here. Let me go ahead and select this ERP-US user login. This login so Sage X3 comes seated very much like we were just discussing, with pre-configured user roles and permissions. And it really stems from a C-suite level permission control or group all the way down to the shipping clerk. So the system again comes seated with these roles or permissions, but it's the roles and permissions that are defined either by an actual role that a person plays or a group like customer service. That permission control controls everything I can do, from the modules that I can access to the functions I can perform to what I see on my home screen like we're looking at right now, and what default landing pages I have available to me. All the way to the data that I can see and the read-write ability I have on specific fields. So it's important to understand that right out of the box, there are many roles or definitions of security already defined. But our users, just like everything else, have the ability to go in and modify those or create new ones as needed. Okay. I quickly want to sort of talk a little bit about what you're looking at from a screen geography perspective. At the top of the screen, you can see there's a toolbar. The Sage logo takes you immediately back to your home screen, this page we're looking at right now. The ERP-US is the user I'm logged in as right now. The NA X3 role is, as I said, a user role that is defined in the system that dictates my permissions from the module all the way down to the field and data access level. The seed is the specific X3 folder that I'm actually given permission to access. You'll notice the big question mark. If I click on that, you'll see you have two options. One is to go straight to the online help center, and the other is to access a list of keystroke shortcuts. It is important to understand you're going to see me moving the mouse around quite a bit today, but you'll also probably see me, and I'll try to point out as much as possible, you're going to see me use shortcuts. And shortcuts can do everything from bring me back to the home page, or increase or decrease the size of a screen, or just add a new business document into the system on on the keystroke. So people that would rather use the keyboard than a mouse, X3 accommodates that. If I just quickly jump out to the Help Center is always available. It's always being updated. It's a central tool for everybody to access, and it covers everything from, hey, what's new in the current release, to recently added tutorials, to technical help on how to do certain things around the system structure itself, to product help, which helps you do things around the specific products or modules within the system, quick start guides that you can read online or download, how-to videos, as well as tutorials, and of course a knowledge base that's based on questions and answers that have been accumulated over time and is searchable. And then also, as we continue along that toolbar, you'll notice that there is a compass, which takes us to our navigation through the formal menu structure of Sage X3. Now, most of our customers don't utilize this tool. I did want to pop in here so you guys saw that the system does have that standard menu, submenu structure. So for example, if I go to read-only pages, you'll notice that I have submenus and sub-modules. So if in this case, you'll notice here under common data, I have the option for products, or the module for products. I'm going to mark that as a bookmark. So one of the great things about X3 is, yes, I can access this menu structure, but I also can utilize what are called favorites or bookmarks, as well as a few other tools I'll point out very shortly on as we discuss further the landing pages. But I do want to quickly go to the last little icon here that I want to talk about right now, and that is the star, which allows me to review, manage, or enable my favorites or bookmarks, however you like to refer to them as. And you'll notice I can have one or two. Or I can have many, like I have, and they go all the way from accessing the customer master table all the way through to the recently products read-only page we just added. So it's very easy to organize and add items to the favorites or bookmarks. You also have the ability to change the term. So if I call something, instead of purchase order, I just wanted to say PO, or quote, I want to say estimate, or so on and so forth. You have control under the bookmarks manager of organizing them in their order, as well as what they're called. If it makes more sense for you to understand it in your terms, then we allow you to do that. Again, it's all about ease of use. So that brings us to understanding what we're looking at down here in the main home screen. And you'll notice that, again, by this role that I have here, I've been provided with standard landing pages. So landing pages are access that I've been given to specific design tabs, and those design tabs allow me to access everything from a visual process map to a query or inquiry or report, or whatever it may be. And the whole idea of landing pages is to customize the user experience around the requirements that user has in their everyday activity. You can, as I said, provide by role standard landing pages, and then you'll notice down below I also have my landing pages, which are landing pages, again, controlled by permission, that I've created as the user to give me access to specific inquiries I might have created, specific KPIs or dashboards I might have created. But the whole idea is that I have a personal side of my landing pages that I can set as a user. Again, all of that is controlled by my permission level defined in my user role. So one of the first things I want to do is I want to jump down off of manufacturing and go to my dashboards. And under my dashboards, we're looking at business intelligence tools that come standard with BI tools that allow us to access dashboards and KPIs that come standard with Sage X3. So just like we talked about roles being seeded and inquiries and so forth, when X3 is rolled out, it comes with several of these different dashboards. You can see here I have sales, purchasing, inventory, manufacturing, and financial. Those are just a few of the list that is available. And you also get the set of KPIs. And those KPIs can be combined into a different dashboard than, say, the ones that are seeded in the system. And the key thing about the ones that are seeded in the system is they're seeded by role. Just like our user roles, we can actually access the sales manager dashboard, and it actually already exists. So a lot of that stuff is there and ready for immediate use when you start to implement the system. Once you're utilizing the tool, if I, for example, go to purchasing and want to do my own slicing and dicing, these dashboards all have what we call slicers or filters, if you will. So for example, if I wanted to come down and say, you know what, I really don't want to see the entire enterprise because X3 is a system of multi, right? We support multi-currency, multi-country, multi-legislation, multi-language, etc. So a large enterprise may have several different companies around the world, and some people within the system may want access to all of those, but the slicers or filters give me the ability to decide what I'm looking at any given moment. So here, if I go ahead and grab my North America companies, as soon as I select those, the data is updated in real time. I also have the ability, for example, to use other KPIs as slicers for additional KPIs. So one slicer might impact another KPI. And as I adjust or make decisions or make choices, the data is also updating in real time. And at any point, I certainly have the ability to drill down, or if I want to, I can bust out and start multitasking across multiple tabs. So I may want to keep this this dashboard up and work on it, but know that I have to duck back to X3 at any given point. For example, I might want to drill in a little bit into the specific supplier, or I may just want to look at, for example, delivery performance. So in certain KPIs, I might drill down into for more data, or I might open a further view at the performance indicators, which drills me down into further detail that I can then start to analyze. So the system actually exposes or allows you to drill down all the way to individual business records. I'm not going to do that right now, but you do have that level of access. So I can move from a dashboard to a sub-dashboard to a KPI right into the individual business document, whether that's a quote, order, an invoice, whatever it may be. And lastly, I think it's important to also understand that there's a hierarchy within dashboards as well. So for example, here I'm looking at the CFO dashboard, and under the CFO, maybe the controller, the AR team, and the AP team, and then right from the controller's dashboard, I do have the ability to drill down into a more specific area of focus like AR or AP, and now I'm looking at the AP dashboard, and again, here I can pop out, right? And I also have the ability to drill in, right? So any of the data that shows up here, I can drill in to further, investigate. And I think the most important thing is that this tool allows me to make sure that everybody's accessing data from the same central source of information. So it's one source of data, and we like to say one source of the truth. I'm not running off to some other database or some other online BI tool or some offline reporting tool to gather up my information. All that information is here. The other thing that's important to understand, in this particular case, I don't have an example of this that I'm showing today, but you also can take this tool and build reports with it. So reports that we might normally run as a piece of paper, we can actually have created and here, instead of having graphs and drill down, I may have reports with drill down. So the tool is very, very powerful. I can also email using triggers access to some of those reports as PDFs or directly as URL links into the dashboards themselves. And in addition to the business intelligence tools, if we move down to inquiries, we're also given the ability to create queries using tools within the system. And those queries help us mine data, allow us to, again, create graphs and charts with those if we need to, or get them as raw data that we might use externally to dump out into something like Excel. So quarterly, I might have to get together with our bank or the board or the owners, and I might want to take some of this data and drop it out and push it into something more pleasing and more sort of basic, like a PowerPoint set of slides, than specifically having to work, with the customer, the board, and so forth out of the system itself. I can actually use any of those graphs I create, drop them out into PowerPoint, and start building my presentation from there. And the great thing about this is that the presentation and the slides are tied back to or related back to the system itself. So any information for the next quarter, I may just come in here and say refresh all slides, or refresh this slide, and all that heavy lifting, get external data, ODVC, and so forth, is taken care of, because the system, when it created the PowerPoint slides, it created the relationship. And then also, let's not save that one. Here you can see I have more of a data dump, or a query that's gathering data for me. I also have the ability to drop that to Microsoft Excel. So we do have, an integration to all the Office tools, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. We even have the ability to define template documents that we can feed data into that may contain key, whether it be a Word document with mail merge, or an Excel spreadsheet with defined charts and graphs, pivot tables, etc. In this case, I'm going to choose the option no template, because I'm just going to take this raw data new and move it out into Excel. And so Excel makes a safe connection, just like PowerPoint, using my login and password. So governance is a big part of this, right? So I'm not getting data I'm not allowed to get. And just like with the PowerPoint, it's creating a sage relationship between this particular spreadsheet and the system. And you'll notice here, I didn't do this in the PowerPoint, but if I scroll down here and let's get rid of all of these business partners that start with BE, right? We'll just delete them right out. The system always has the ability, if I hit refresh, it's actually going back using that connection, secure connection that it established, and it's refreshing the data within the spreadsheet. So that way I know that any of the pivot tables, graphs, and so forth that might rely on that data, I can get that back or update it as new data is presented. And then we'll just say don't save that. So whether it's the business intelligence tools with the KPIs, or the dashboards, or just straight inquiries with charts and graphs, the ability to get at the data, one source of the truth, governed by the securities of each individual's roles, is a critical aspect to Sage X3. The other thing that is extremely critical is what we call visual process maps. So I'm going to go up to manufacturing, to my defined role-based landing page, and my default tab within my landing page for manufacturing is my page, but I'm going to jump over here to manufacturing. And right away, you see that we have what we call a visual process map. And the visual process map gives us the ability to take functions and modules and other key things like reports and queries that we would normally have to go to that menu structure for, and build them into a more graphical, more user-friendly, more user-specific flow of responsibility, or business process, right? So I may be somebody who wears multiple hats within the organization. It is easier and faster for me to learn how to access those roles or those functions that I do using using the visual process map than have to figure out how to find them within the navigation menu structure. So visual process maps and the editor that goes along with it allows us to build these workflows, or I should say business process flows, and make them available to the users within the system. Again, permission controlled. Again, the system comes seeded with hundreds of these pre-built visual process maps, but customers do have the ability to build their own as well as modify the ones that we've provided and use them as the modified version. So again, one of the things that's kind of cool is you look at this, you'll see that there's different colored icons, different icons that do different things. So a black icon like this, if I drill into that, it takes me to another process map. And a blue icon will actually take me to a function. If I hover over certain words, those also can be linked to key elements or functions within the system. And then I do also have the ability to drill to specific reports or a sub, if you will, visual process map that gives me access to other important pieces of information. So visual process maps can be used everywhere throughout the system to build those workflow business processes as needed. And then, of course, you can also get creative with them and use them to build more like navigation toolbars. So in this particular case, you're looking at my page, and my page has a navigation toolbar that was built with the same tool that we use to build visual process maps. So the key thing is we give you a tool set that's very visual, that's very easy to learn, that can be personalized to an individual's responsibilities and make learning the use of the system much, much easier and much more personal for that individual. So from here, let's actually do. I'm going to go back up to our toolbar, and I'm going to utilize this little search engine that we have up here, and I'm going to type bike, and I'm going to hit oops. There we go. And what we're using is a Google-like search engine built into X3. And the powerful thing here is, as we get used to using, Google and Bing, Google search engine and Bing and other search engines that we use on our daily activities at home, on our iPhones or Android phones, or whatever, there's been a desire to have a tool that within the the ERP gives us the ability to search. So I might hop on, Google on my iPhone and look for a restaurant or some product that I might be interested in. Well, I can do a similar thing here within X3, and you'll see that it is scanning the system and searching for any of these different criteria. Do we have sales orders, quotes, products, etc. So if I select products as an example, it's now showing me all of the different products within the product master that has bike in the name or whatever the defined search engine fields are. So it is a admin defined option. But in this particular case, if I unselect products, I'm now back at the full list. You can see it's quite extensive. I could jump over to sales orders. All right, so let's go back to the home screen, and let's shut down our search engine there. And I want to introduce you guys to another search engine that we have that's a little bit more focused. So it's nice to be able to sort of use this search engine to scan them, but if I know that I specifically want to work within a customer search, this customer 360-degree search gives me a very powerful tool at the hands of a sales rep, an account executive, a CSR, a service manager, whoever it may be, to find a customer and or their sub or group related customers or addresses. So in this case, I'm going to say, let's find Cisco. You can see I have Cisco North America. And again, within Cisco North America, I may have many sub addresses, sub instances of that customer. In this case, I just have the one. I select the instance I'm looking for, and I now have access to all the different touch points that are related to that customer. So very easy, especially in an environment where I'm either managing multiple things at the same time, or get a heavy inflow of emails or phone calls, like a service center. This tool allows me to quickly find the customer I'm looking for, access the data they might need or I might need, and or if it's a new customer that's related to a customer or customer group, I can add that new customer on the fly given I have permission to do that. I may just simply need to create an order. So that's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and create an order. And what I want to talk to you about beyond just how to create an order, more importantly, is about the structure of the screen that you're looking at. Because one of the strengths of X3 is that screen structure, right? That classic structure appears in all our major modules. So you get very comfortable very quickly with what you're looking at because that view is always the same. It varies by module and what appears in, say, the right panel side of the screen, but that structure is very common across the system, and we refer to that as a classic screen. You'll notice on the screen when I logged in that I got a little note. And this note was set at the customer record. When we talk about customers, when we get to the common data section, I will point out how we can set those up. But we can set notes that are just informational within the actual customer record itself, or in this particular case, I've set it up to display to the user so that a prompt of information, critical information, can be presented to them. As you look at the screen, on the left side of the screen, we're seeing a list of all the sales orders. So we refer to this as the left list. And the left list really represents, based on my permissions, all of the available records within the particular module that I'm in. So these are sales orders within the sales order module. You'll also notice that they have several columns, and each of these columns can be used as a filter, right? So I have the ability to filter using different criteria. I also have the ability to sort. I even have the ability to move, get back here, different columns to an order that suits me better as a user. And if necessary, I can actually add or modify the list of columns that are there. So if a key piece of information, like a reference number or something like that, is not part of that list, I can add it to the list as an administrator so that my customer service team is able to filter and sort by that key piece of data. You'll also notice that the left list has different, what we call drawers. These are ways of slicing and dicing the information further. So give me a list of all the last read sales orders. I also have the ability to access drawers for the benefit of utilizing other business documents as a source for my new business document. So I can look at a quote that might have been done a week ago and use that to build my sales order. So those drawers are very, very effective in helping us do what we got to do within the particular module. In the center of the screen, we have our actual data on the sales order. So you'll notice that that center console is broken down into tabs, and those tabs represent all the key information about the particular business record or business document, whether it's a sales order, quote, an invoice, etc. And then on the right side of the screen, you'll notice that we have what's called the right panel, and the right panel gives me access to related information that is important as it ties back to the sales order. And then way on the far right, you'll see that I have a toolbar. Toolbars allows me to save, create, delete, and cancel orders. I also have the ability to, for example, add attachments and add comments. So I'm going to go ahead and, for now, since we're creating a sales order, I'm going to jump down to the lines, and I'm going to say I want to access or purchase product FIN 301, which is jalapeno dip. And you'll notice also the product has a note on it. So customer-specific, product-specific notes, even vendor-specific notes, those can be turned on or turned off. In this particular case, let's come over and say we just need 1 case of jalapeno dip, and you'll notice that the system has allocated my 1 case, and it's actually looking into the system and is letting me know that we do have enough to cover this particular order. So let's go ahead and create our order. I'm going to jump right back down to the lines, because I also want to show you that as part of the system, we can create what are called conditional formatting rules or logic. And so in this particular case, when the system went out to determine how much I had and whether I had enough, it had a rule or conditional formatting that said, hey, if there's enough of this product, make that field green and or bold or whatever we might have wanted. So in this case, green means we're good to go. If it had been yellow or red or whatever my particular color is that I like, to notify that it was out of stock, we would have seen that as well. I have the ability, now that my order has been created, to attach documents to it. Those can be simple text comments or images. I can add a file on the fly out of our data center, right? So we have documents that are stored within the database. I can go to a folder within the database and simply grab, for example, this bill of lading. I know it doesn't really make sense, but I'm going to go ahead and grab that. Or I could have, if I had a file that I wanted to use, upload a file into that folder and attach it. So however it works out, if there's an already existing document that you've uploaded, or one that you had in the past uploaded, or you want to upload it on the fly, you can do that. In this case, I'm just going to grab that bill of lading and say OK. And you'll see here that the system is attached to that bill of lading. And if I go ahead and say I want to view that, there's that particular bill of lading. That's just an example. And then let's go ahead and say OK. So now you can see that the attachment showing with a little red dot or little cyan dot there, magenta dot, that there are attachments. I can even do the same thing with comments. So I'll say here is a simple comment. You say OK, and you'll see that there are comments there as well. Lastly, I'm going to log out of my sales order. And sometimes during demos, someone will say, hey, Dave, you just created that sales order. Our customers like to get an acknowledgement. Is there a way in the system that I can not only just print out that acknowledgement, but maybe say email the acknowledgement or notify the customer that an order's been placed through an email or some combination thereof? And the answer is yes. One of the strengths of the system is that we have a tool called Workflow that allows us to create simple notifications and or alerts, or we can create more dynamic, rules-based, logic-based workflows. A simple example would be an email that is letting the customer know about the order, and or an email with an attached PDF of a order acknowledgement, however you may want to do it. The system would create an alert or a notification to do that. That's quite simple. We can do more complex type workflows that might trigger an event within the system or create some sort of action that is taken. Those are a little bit more involved, but they are extremely powerful. Just to show you a simple example, if I sort of tab over to my Microsoft Outlook and we do a quick refresh, and go to the customer inbox, you'll see there's an email popped in there. It says, hey, thank you for your order. Now, in this particular case, I did not have an attached PDF, but that is also an option that you can utilize. So if I'm sending a PDF purchase order off to a vendor or supplier, I can do that. Or the acknowledgement to the customer, or a quote letter to a customer. Any of those things are doable through what we call simple alerts and notifications. So let's go back over to X3. And really the last thing I want to point out very, very quickly, I mentioned before that X3 has been built with HTML5, and it is responsive to the different devices that you move to. But in some cases, it is important to know that there's additional modules developed, and you can actually create them as well as a customer that exist in the system that really are designed or better suited for the smaller screens, right? If I'm on my mobile phone, even the most excellent responsive designed tool is going to look tiny to me, right? And so there are circumstances where I want to be able to utilize different applications or modules that are better suited for my phone. And so just very quickly, so you have a heads up that they're there, we can sort of drill into this further later. We do have the ability to create all sorts of different applications that are available via a mobile login and can be presented in a much more mobile phone environment, a better look feel. And so those are also available within the system and can be through permission control given access to on mobile devices. And the system does understand when you're looking at something from a mobile device versus your desktop. Okay, so that's kind of an overview of what we call the look, feel, and navigation of X3. Just to point out one or two other things here on my manufacturing my page. You'll notice as I scroll down here, we even give you external access. So if I needed to go out and do some searching in Microsoft Bing or Google Chrome for something, maybe I'm looking for a new part as I embark on designing a new product for our company. I mentioned utilizing the design tool to create navigation tools that are slightly different than the concept of a visual process map, right? And then, of course, as I scroll down here, we've already seen the use of charts and graphs, but we also support calendars and the ability to drive data to those calendars. And also, you'll notice at the top, we have just a query of notifications that are being sent to me as the ERP US user, and you'll see that at the very top is our an order entered, right? So that was our orders, an order that we had put in. But what I want to do right now is I want to take a second and talk about common data, and probably most importantly the three most critical common data master tables: the customer master table, the product master table, and the supplier master table. And the most important thing to understand when we talk about common data is that what you mentioned earlier, that X3 is a system of multi, right? And I'm not, I won't list out everything that it's a multi of, but most importantly, it is a multi-company, multi-country, multi-legislation environment. So that speaks to enterprise-level companies, and enterprise-level companies have people all over the world, potentially, that want to utilize the system and know that they're working from one central source of data, one version of the truth, one place where data can be accessed and viewed and managed through governance and security. And the concept of common tables is that, hey, build the data one time and make it available to those who have the permission to access it as a common source of piece of information, if you will. And so, in essence, instead of duplicating efforts across different systems or different islands of information, we're taking that information and we're consolidating it into one central source, and then through permission control, group and user role control, we're allowing that information to be accessed as needed. So let's take a quick second and dive into the customer record or customer master. Again, as I mentioned before, we have our same structure, right? So as people get used to the structure, I'm not worried about, hey, my order entry screen didn't look anything like my customer screen, which doesn't look anything like the purchasing screen. So people who have multiple roles, or people that have moved their way up in the organization, and maybe they started out at shipping as the shipping clerk, but now they're in customer service, the structure of the screen that they saw when they created a shipment was similar to the screen that they see now as a customer service rep. So it's important to understand that. And again, our left list represents, in this case, all the records that are related to customers. So these are all of our customers. If I want, I can go in and I can do a quick sort for just customers in North America, right? And I tab off, and the system is finding those customers for me. And in this particular case, let's grab our customer that we were using before, Cisco Supply. The key thing when it comes to the customer, as I said, because it is part of the common data structure of X3, I can, given the right permissions, I can have access or view all of the customers around the world, around the country, at all the different sites, or I may be limited just to the site and to even a subset of data that's filtered down to maybe a territory. One of the nice features within the screen that I did not point out when we were looking at the sales order earlier is also the ability to save some of our selections into categories or sub options that allow us to view those specific customers that fall within that category. So that makes using the tool even more effective, where I can say I want to look at food and beverage, and then within food and beverage, I may want to search, further down to, well, in this case, I already had my filter applied, so Johnson Wholesale is the customer that applies. So in this particular case, let's continue with Cisco, though. And when we're looking at the customer record, it's important to understand that within each of the three, certainly the three master tables that we're going to look at today, category plays a huge role. So category allows us to organize or group certain customers together, and that may be beneficial for reporting reasons. But it's also helpful when we're looking at KPIs and so forth. But it's also helpful because categories can set standard defaults based on the category. So earlier when we were at the Customer 360 screen, I might have wanted to give a customer service rep the ability to create a new customer. Maybe I don't give them the ability to make them active, but I know that with the category, when they create that new customer, a lot of the standard fields are going to default in automatically, and maybe they're read-only to that end user. But the category controls what those defaults are, and as much as I determine to set as a default, the benefit will be to the user creating that new record, because it will go to that category and it will determine what those defaults should be. So, for example, here U.S. American customers get a default of country, language, and currency. You do not have to make your categories, country specific in this particular case. That is the way they have set it up, but they really can be defined the way it's most effective for your organization. As we scroll down a little bit here, you have key aspects like address. You can have an unlimited number of addresses. You can set the default address. Under commercial, a couple things I want to point out here. The ability to have what we call invoice elements, or is noted as discounts and charges. These can be set as values associated to the customer. We do also have a what's called a template code. If I drill or jump into that quickly, you'll notice that here we have a list of different documents that can be customized or specifically called out for this particular customer. In this particular case, I don't think this customer had a default, but maybe in this case we'll say it's United States documents, and go back. And we've set that set of templates for that particular customer. Again, kind of like the category, the system doesn't have to be by country, but that's how they set up this particular system setup. We talked about customer notes before. You'll notice here, if I quickly drill into the customer notes, this is where that note came up when we were adding our sales order. The very important thing to point out here is that these notes can be category driven. The category determines where those note displays pop up. So you can turn that on and turn that off, but also it's date, time, and person stamped as to who created the record. So we get a log of communication that gets accumulated, not just some flat note. Also within the management tab, you'll see that we have something called statistical groups. Statistical groups are critical within X3. They're used for slicers within the BI tools. They're used for filters within inquiries. They're used as options within reports. They're used for pricing when we want to create some dynamic pricing rules. So they're very important for mining and monitoring the data. They're also interrelated. So for example, my group 1 can drive what choices I have in group 2 and group 3. You can have up to 5 groups, and those 5 groups become extremely powerful slicers or data points that we can use to sort of get at that data. Financial, all the key things like who's my bill to pay to customer, does this customer belong to a bigger customer group, my tax, my payment terms, and then dimensional accounting. We utilize dimensional accounting within X3, so we're able to define what those different dimensions are and set particular defaults within this particular customer. Ship to customer, we can have, again, an unlimited number of ship to customer addresses. We can define where those particular products going to that customer address are shipped from by default. We also have the ability to define special notes or comments regarding tickets and packing slips. So those the key information about shipping to that or dealing with that particular ship to customers products can be defined. What's their default shipping method, shipping carrier? Is there a delivery lead time? All that is set at the ship to customer level. And then scrolling down a little bit further, you get to contacts, the number of contacts that exist at a particular customer, what the default customer is, and how they relate to the ship to addresses as well. You'll notice on the right side of the screen that we have both price lists and products. These are our sort of first indication as we get into these common data tables about the interrelationship between common data tables, master tables, and each other. So, for example, I mentioned that status groups can be used for pricing. Well, price lists can exist at a associated to a customer. Products can be associated to a customer. So there's interrelationship or interdependencies that have been established or can be established between these master tables. So let's go ahead and let's actually dive to suppliers. And suppliers, very similar. Again, it's the master table. It is organized. Our suppliers can be organized by category. Category, again, same scenario, can be used for reporting and grouping, but it's also used mainly to drive defaults into the supplier records as they're created. Very similar to the customer, we have addresses. I think one thing that's important to point out, especially as we're sitting on the suppliers, business partners, as we refer to suppliers and customers and sales reps and so forth, can play multiple roles in our world, right? And so a supplier could be a supplier, but they also could be a customer. And so X3 gives us the ability to understand that one business partner can play multiple roles. And again, it's all about that common concept, right? Let's not load up the system with extra information, extra multiple records, duplicate records to serve an end purpose. The idea of role and the ability to have multiple roles does that much better. And if we scroll down a little bit further, again, we have the same discount and charges, or what we call invoice elements associated to the vendor. Is there an existing price list structure for this vendor? If we scroll down a tiny bit more, we're seeing stat groups for the vendor as well. Same. It's a different list than the customers, than the products, and so forth, but same concepts apply. They're interdependent, and I can have up to 5. Also, same thing from a supplier notes, right? In this case, I don't have one already seated up here, but the supplier notes, they have categories. We can dictate through the category where those notes pop up if we want them to auto-display. And they're a record date, time, and person stamped of communication that's logged into the system for a log of information. We do have the ability to keep an eye on our credit with the supplier and what to do if we run out of our credit. And again, we scroll down through the financial, where we're talking bill by pay to 1099 customer, the payment terms, tax rule, and so forth. And then, of course, we get to the bottom, and we have the ability to establish a vendor ranking. This is based on user-edited values. So as I adjust or manually score my vendors, right? If he has a 7 on lead time, he's a 9 on price, right? He's a 9 on quality. Quality. He does pretty decent job, but not great with high quantities. And then you have a free field. When I actually save that, that's okay. When I actually save that and we jump down to ranking, we're starting to get a picture in a spider diagram of where this particular vendor is strong and where they need some work. So again, the whole idea of this master record is that it's tied to a greater system. So now let's take a move over to product master. And when we get into the product master, the first thing I'll point out is that you'll notice in here we have a customer tab and we have a supplier tab, right? We have sales price, we have purchase price. So the key thing to understand is this cross-reference, right? The relationship between the customer and the product, the supplier and the product, and that power that it brings to the system. So again, as we look at the home tab, you'll see again category. Now that we're getting into a product, we have the ability to have an image. So start defining the identification of the product. Does it have a UPC code? What descriptions do we use commonly? Is there a way we like to search for the particular item? And lo and behold, right there, statistical groups. So again, I can create, my leveled statistical groups with the interdependencies that I can use for reporting purposes, as well as organizational purposes, as well as for writing my rules for filtering of selections, defining my sell price, defining my purchase price through my vendors, and so forth. Very, very, very powerful tool. Again, here we have production notes. If you recall, we had the note pop up for the product when we were submitting our order. So that's where that is defined. Again, category defines where it's set, pops up. Date, time, and person stamp is recorded, and we get that log of information. Now when we get down into the management tab, things are starting to change a little bit because the product is a little bit more dynamic table. Is this a managed product? Do we manage it in inventory? Do we allow for less than 0 stock? Basically, do we allow it to go negative? Do we utilize traceability? So traceability is tied to lots. So I say, yes, I am managing this inventory at a lot level, and I want to keep track of a detailed level of traceability. Do we utilize the function for potency management? Over time, does this particular product lose its potency? As we scroll down here, do we have a lot sequence number? A sequence number is a defined template that dictates where the number or how the number for, in this case, the lot gets defined automatically. You'll notice sequence numbers throughout the system. Here, for example, if we did serial management, we would see a sequence number for the serial numbering. units of measure, the ability to support multiple different units of measure and units of measure that are both imperial and metric, as well as packing units. If we scroll down, we talked about analytical accounting and dimensions. I'm going to move down to sales. Is this a normal product, a flexible kit, or a fixed kit? In this particular case, it's a normal kit. A flexible kit gives the user doing the input of a sales order flexibility in choosing what products make up that dynamic kit, where a fixed kit is defined and fixed, to use the term to define it. And then as we move down a little bit further, I want to touch on the customer tab, because this is important, this is where we start tying that referenceability of the product to the customer. And so here we're listing the customers that buy this particular product. How do they buy it from us, right? What's the sales unit? Do they have a specific packaging requirement or packing requirement? Do they have a product number that we need to be able to reference? Do they have a description that they need to be able to reference? And then, of course, is there specific sales order text and pick ticket text that we need to enter in, again, specific to this customer? And you'll notice that over here, those would be highlighted if we did. If I scroll down a little bit further, this is a finished goods product, so there are no supplier. But at the same breath, if this was a raw material or a material that we an item that we might use a subcontractor for, we would have referenceability to the suppliers. And same as above, we would have supplier product number and description, UPC code. What is the quality rank of that particular vendor? Are they what's their priority as far as the way that we choose to pick our vendors? And is there a landed cost associated with doing business with that particular supplier? If we scroll down a little bit further, now we're getting into some graphics around some of the data that relates to customers and this product. But let's scroll up to the top, and let's take a quick step into the product site. So just like common data exists as an efficiency step within the system, we want to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts, we're not having the same record in multiple company locations. We're defining that those are common to the enterprise system. Well, product sites are unique in how they manage a particular product. So when we drill down to a product site, we're now looking at how one site versus another interacts with that product, whether it's a raw material or whether it's a finished good. So if I go ahead and I do a refresh, you'll see that we have several different sites that stock this particular product. In our case, it's NA021 that we're looking at. And now we're looking at the specific data for this product as it relates to that production site. I'm going to skip over a couple key items and just point out some highlights. The ability at the site to determine the quality level, the level of quality management. If we're doing quality management, what particular technical sheets are we going to use for that process? Do we utilize a sampling methodology at that site? Do we have some standard default location types and default locations that we store, hold, bulk store this particular product? Scrolling down a little bit further, we get to the planning. How do we handle this when it comes to MRP? Do we have any firm horizons, trend profiles, any lead times specific for manufacturing or purchasing this product? Do we reorder by MRP, master production schedule, by statistical reordering? Is it by reorder by period or by order level? If we maintain our standard default here by MRP, are we purchasing or manufacturing this product? Is it an intersite product that might get transferred between two different locations? Is it a subcontract product that needs to be handled by a third-party vendor? for some function. What's our stock values for safety stock, economic order quantity, min-max amounts, reorder threshold to drive that statistical reordering, technical lot. And then as we scroll down here, we can have site-specific production notes. I'm going to jump down to our cost. This is where we can define our costing method. This is where we can drill into our landed cost calculation. This is where we also can drill into our cost, average cost, standard cost, revised standard cost details. If we drill into the details, this gives us the ability to see a breakdown of that standard cost by particular category on the material side, by a particular category on a labor side, as well as by machine and overhead. So you have the ability to classify further, as you can see here, hardware, foam, upholstery. I can have different types of labor breakdowns here. We've left it generic, but this gives the organization a better sense for how those costs break down at a sub level. And then lastly, as we move all the way to the bottom, again, if this was a purchased product, we would actually see who the associated supplier is as it relates to this particular product site. They may use a different supplier due to geography. It's just faster, easier, and same price to get the products they need from this supplier than maybe one that is used on the West Coast. And then, of course, the calculation of costs can be calculated here and is calculated at the site level, because site costs can be different from site to site. And then lastly, I want to sort of just quickly look at the bill of materials and the routing, and then kind of come to a summary here. And so let's first drill into the bill of materials. And the bill of materials represents the recipe, the needed materials to produce or manufacture the product, right? And you'll notice here that we have our BOM code 40. We're managing it by lot. The lot size is 66, right? And when we come down here into the component level, we're seeing the components sequenced in a particular sequence from intermediate down to raw materials. And as we scroll over, we're seeing the quantity utilized of each of those different components and what their unit of measure is. So support for different units of measure within the BOM, support for different base quantities within the BOM, support for validity start and end dates within the BOM, the ability to keep the BOM in development until it's ready to go and then make it available to use, the ability to manage versions of the BOM, as well as to roll up allergens. So for example, one of these might be a raw material marked with a particular allergen, eggs or nuts. When we roll up the BOM, we roll up all of those allergens so we have a clear picture of what allergens are part of the makeup of that product, all the way down through the intermediates, all the way down to individual raw materials. You also have the ability to have additional BOMs or subsequent BOMs, and you always have the flexibility of at the work order level, given that you've got the permission to do so, overriding the BOM level to get the specific BOM formula that you're looking for. If we jump over to routings, the routings are the steps that we need to take to create the product or the intermediate or whatever it may be, or the subassembly. So in this particular case, we have a BOM. It's a very simple, routing. It's a very simple routing. Let's find the one that goes with our site, NAO21, right? So it's site level, my BOM code, my product. Again, it has a major, we can manage major and minor versions at the routing level, validity start and end date. How am I accounting for time as hours or minutes? Is it available to user or still in development, like we talked about? Can I override my my routing, material change, operation change, or both? If I scroll down a little bit, now we're looking at the individual steps within, and in this case, it's a single step. If we scroll over, what is our work center, and how do we want to describe the particular operation that's being done? And then is there a labor work center that goes along with the machine work center? And then we see this specific timing detail, setup times, cleanup times. Are we accounting for runtime by a proportional value? Or are we doing it in a set amount of time, or I'm sorry, on a run rate? And then if it's time, what was the amount of time? And then if it was rate, what is the specific rate? Do we require shrinkage? And as we move along here, is there any associated post-operation time, waiting time, or pre-setup preparation time? And once we've defined that routing, we're also dictating at the same time the impact on scheduling. And I'm not going to get into this in too much detail, but here's where we define the parameters associated with this particular set of work centers, or in this case, one work center, and how they're going to feed and impact the finite capacity within dynamic scheduling. And then if we go to multi-level, this is going to show us the multiple levels of the BOM. X3 can support anywhere from 1 level to 999, basically an unlimited number of levels within the BOM. So we can have the finished product, an intermediate, a sub-intermediate, and so forth, all the way down. All right. So let's take it back to our main home screen. And I just kind of want to give you guys a summary. We've gone through an awful lot, and the key thing to remember, X3 is a powerful modern ERP system, right? It's focused on flexibility and ease of use, but it's also multi, right? So it supports a very simple manufacturing environment, a single plant, single warehouse, single manufacturing site, but it can dynamically support up to many different companies, each with many different sites, all with multiple warehouses and so forth. So extremely extensible solution. It's also very flexible in how it can be deployed. Again, we leave that mainly to the decision of the partner, Sage X3 partner, and what is best for their client. But it can be anything from a self-hosted on-prem solution to a multi-tenant cloud solution, and several options in between. It's pre-configured, so the system, yes, we do implement it for each individual environment and customize it to the specific requirements and businesses of those environments, but you have tools in the solution when it arrives, whether that be the KPIs, whether that be the roles, whether that be inquiries, whether it's something as simple as the categories. You have a system that comes in a format that's ready to roll. And then it's also important to understand that it is a complete ERP solution. So today we just really looked at sales orders and kind of moving through the solution from a sort of a navigation perspective, but the system does actually handle everything from the customer portal and e-commerce solution through CRM, all the way through the sales process, manufacturing process, and accounting process, right to financial reporting even. And it's also important to understand that we work very closely with what we refer to as independent software vendors, or ISVs, to enhance that core system, albeit very complete, with additional functionality that may be required by a specific vertical industry, or may be required around a specific advanced function that is needed. But we work very closely with our partners and our ISVs to provide our customers with the complete solution they're looking for. So thank you for your help today in looking through X3, and look forward to talking with you again in the future.